So, hi everyone, welcome to this week's The Recovery. And this week I'm joined by special guest, James English, king of podcasts.
Correct.
That's self-proclaimed, isn't it?
Yeah. That's my ego and my insecurity just all wrapped up in one.
Yeah, but you know what, James? With your podcast, there's a real serious side to your podcast. I mean, they're so good and so on point. Do you know what I'm saying to you? You have a lot of villains, you have a lot of ex-cons, you have a lot of everything in there, but it's all life experience.
Yeah.
And that's what's brilliant about it. So if any of you not seen James English, which I doubt many of you haven't, it's on every platform. James English, check it out. So James, you do a lot of, because you interview so many people, I wanted to get you on here so I could find out your story.
Yeah.
Because it's that whole thing of only, you get that identification from somebody that's been through it, that's the only way you can really understand it. For me, I think that to understand something, to understand something is actually to actually experience it. And that's the way you understand it best. Do you get what I'm saying to you? And that's what's so good about your podcast. You really relate to who you're interviewing. And
yeah. I just think in life we're all struggling. No matter what we go through, no matter what we do, no matter how successful we become, we're still battling some sort of inner demons. And no matter if it's a criminal, a nun, a police officer, if somebody comes on my show, you'll tend to see everybody's just kind of winging it. We're just going through the emotions. We kind of just don't know why we're on this earth. I think we're all just going with the flow and pretending that we know what we're doing. But my life should be great just now. I'm smashing the podcast, the documentaries. From the outside, it still looks great. But if anything, I'm probably battling more now than I was when I was a addict on fucking drugs and gambling and womanizing.
Let's talk about the addict on drugs and the gambling.
Yeah.
These are really big things. I'd like you to touch on that. I'd like to talk to you about that. And I'd like to talk about what made you who you are today. So that's what I really want to talk about. We could talk about, the gangsters and all of that later. But I just think it's really important that people know your story because they see your. You don't really know your story. Do you get what I'm saying, Joe?
Yeah. Yeah, grew up in a tough area in Glasgow called Postle Park. I've been visiting jails, family members from the ages of 2 and 3 going up and drink, drugs and violence. I was surrounded by that. It was kind of the norm at that time. It was all we knew, my friends knew, family knew. It was a very rough environment. It became, like I say, normal. You become a product of your environment. And for so many years, everything that I'd seen, the pain, the misery, it became normal. I started gambling. Gambling was my main addiction. I'd been gambling probably since ages of 4 or 5, and that might be hard for people to grasp and accept. But like my family used to take us, we used to go for like family lunches or in the pubs. We used to play fruit machines. Yeah. And then in school, probably 8 or 9, we used to play a thing called chippy. We used to throw money up at the wall. And then flip the coins up. And then my dad used to take us to a place called Shawfield, which was a dog track, early age. We used to be able to put on your own bets then, like 50 pences. So my gambling started very young. They never realised the extent of it. Even when like family parties and stuff, I'm sure I used to get like shandies, like a big lot of lemonade with some lager in it for like early age. So it was normal to sit at parties with family members, everyone smoking, fighting at the end of the night.
Always.
It became so normal.
Party if it wasn't a fight.
Yeah, and that's where it just started getting from the ages. And in my teenage years, everything just seemed to got worse. It enhanced 100 times because I looked quite older for a young age, so I could get into nightclubs, I could go into the bookies. Even then, you could get into a bookmaker's probably any age. It wasn't like it is now, where it's all need your photographic identification and shit. Then it was easier, but I grew up in a rough environment. My mum and dad did what they could. Great parents. My mum worked in Monroe Click, which was like a photo shop in Glasgow. My dad was a bouncer in one of the biggest nightclubs in Glasgow at the time, Victoria's. So when I was like ages of 14 and 15, my dad used to get me in for free. Now I was a good-looking kid. Still a good-looking guy. You know that, Tony. But I was going to these places, walking down to the front of the queue, and I thought it was the bollocks. I played professional football. I signed an S1 for a football team called Hibs through in Scotland. So I used to go to nightclubs and think I was a big baller, 15, 16, tell all the girls I played for the first team, that's why I get in. I didn't have to wait in line or anything. And I was very old for my age. I tend to, and then before you know it, you get into a life of misery and chaos, the drugs at the start. You're still fit and healthy, so nobody can see it. But as time goes on, the fun nights and the partying, instead of it being fun, it just becomes fun and misery. And by the end of it, after a few years, it just becomes straight misery. The gambling was every day.
That thin line between use and abuse. As soon as we start to abuse something, and it starts to abuse us back. So
Yeah.
the thin line of like the partying and the fun times, they get so few and far between, because what we're doing is we're just using to try and maintain that image and maintain that level of addiction and thirst that we have. Do you know what I'm saying to you? So the good times are way, way, way in the past, and it becomes survival.
Yeah, it's difficult, but because you don't see it, other people see it. But I was always kept myself fresh, always had the nice suits on. But then you get involved in some serious shit. I lost a lot of family members and friends to murder, and as a male in Glasgow, it's a very tough city. You don't know how to deal with that pain. You don't know how to deal with that misery and trauma. For me, I had it with the coke at the weekend. I was always the loudest man in the room, but now I realise I was the weakest. I portrayed myself as to be the funny character, but I was the one who was screaming out for help the most, and I ended up gambling every day, doing a lot of bad things to get the money to gamble. I fucked everyone over, but because I had such a good personality, people kind of forgave me quicker. And I kind of use that technique now in my interviewing skills. Because I was a compulsive liar.
I can relate. Relate. You know, I used to lie on lies. So I never knew, people wouldn't even ask me the time because they knew I'd lie.
Yeah.
But, you know, I got to that stage where I believed my own lies.
Yeah.
I would say something and I think, that was real, yeah. And because I didn't know the difference anymore between reality and lying. It's insane.
Yeah, it's difficult. And I still believe I've got those characteristics.
Yeah, of course.
Because everything I do now, I still question. But looking back, I try and understand the brain more. Every time I was betting or gambling, I was releasing dopamine. I didn't realise it was like chemical imbalances. I didn't understand the mindset. So for me, it was the quick bet or sex or the drugs. It was to keep constantly trying to put me on a high. Yeah. And after a couple of hours, few minutes, whatever, the high would go, and then I had to keep chasing it. And then to the extent where I was pawning my kids' iPads, all my jewellery, back in my mum's house. And yet I still thought it was Billy Big Ball. I still thought I was the man, not realising you're sitting in your room. And not so much ended up on the coke, I started smoking a lot of weed. I just started sitting in the room, just puffing joint after joint, gambling, trying to tap money, doing the wrong turns to get money. Everything I'd done was negative. The circle I kept was negative. It's not that they were bad people. It's all those they knew also. But the gambling just, sometimes I would sit up for 24 hours, 48 hours, no sleep, just betting on shit. Netball, basketball, water polo, anything that was on telly that I could just sit and watch and get that dopamine kick. And it was just crazy. I started just deteriorating. People just kind of tell you, get your shit together. But after a while, people just stop talking anymore. You burn all your bridges. People don't really understand the extent of gambling. I think it's the hidden addiction because you can hide it more. It's not like coke or alcohol or crack. You just know after a certain time that, okay, there's something not right. With gambling, it's a mental thing. You can block it out.
When you're married to somebody that has a cocaine addiction or an alcohol addiction or any other substance, you start to see the face change, the body change, the way they are, the chemical imbalance in them. And of course, most substances ravish you, so they pick up on that. But with gambling, it's such a silent one, because although you're getting high from it and, the money's coming in, and every time there's a loss, people don't see it. And I mean, I've got friends, and I had friends, one of them has passed away now, and he owned half of Hong Kong. He owned half of England, like so many things. He was a sir. But when he passed away, he had nothing. while he was alive, he had it all. He had nothing. He'd gambled everything away under his family's nose. And I mean, he left there with such debts. It was unreal. But on the surface, and when you met him, you know, he had the world. But he was gambling. Addiction was so powerful that he'd lost everything and was just. It was all sellotaped together, like we do. All addictions and all addicts. We sellotape it together. So on the surface, everyone thinks everything's great. Oh wow, he's famous. He's got this. He's got that. But really, they got nothing. Do you know what I'm saying? And gambling just ravished him. And I think it's a really important one to have on the recovery, because a lot of people just think, oh, it's okay. Their kids are playing on this or on that, on laptops and stuff. And they're not losing any money. They're just playing.
No, you can lose your house in minutes. You can lose everything in minutes. And it's not just your own life you destroy, it's everyone else around you. Every relationship I was in broke down. I used to drive the car sometimes and run out of fuel because I would rather spend the money in the bookies than get fuel. And things just get worse. You would do anything just to create that addiction. And I was selling cars. I was fucking everybody over. I was doing dodgy stuff. Nobody would get paid. Or else I would rob Peter to pay Paul, and it was nuts. And then my dad always kind of kept me in line, but when he got diagnosed with leukemia, and when he went, I kind of the shackles came off, and then I just went fucking mental. I went to prison. I got done. I took a car chase, just steaming, full of Charlie, crashed into the police, got a few months in Berlin and Glasgow, which is a tough place. And if you think you're a Jack the Lad, and I still always thought I had goodness in us. I always believed I was still a good person, even though when you're in that life, people tell you that you're not good, but I still believe somehow that I was good. I was capable of being a better person. But once you go to prison, and when I was going in the bus up to prison, I was shiting myself, Tony. I was whistling. Yeah. I'm thinking I'm going to get fucking pumped in here. I'm a good-looking boy, and I just thought, shit, because I used to watch all the American films, even though I was visiting family members and friends. You're always leaving after an hour. But this time, I'm thinking, I'm 22, 23. I'm thinking, I'm going to be somebody's fucking bitch. But when I went in, I ended up knowing a lot of people, Tony. I ended up people I grew up with. So then I become even more egotistic and self-driven because I thought, this is fucking easier. Now I can walk out. Yeah, I thought I was a gangster. I was only there for a few months while still pretending. The mask totally came on, and then once she came out, I just felt like I was untouchable because I'd done a few months in prison. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? And then I thought it was like getting a little badge of honour, and then everything just spiralled faster. I just low vibration, low frequency, hanging about with people who was in prison, other addicts from so many different.
Well, you've reached it. It's like finding a new high. So that what took you into prison no longer served a purpose. You had now found this new realm where you discovered that you were a bad boy. You were hanging out with different people on different levels that had different crimes that you were getting high off of. It's a totally different thing. So of course it just escalates you to another level of humanity.
It's crazy because I ended up coming out. I got 2 girls pregnant at the same time, as you do. And then
you do, I don't. But anyway.
And then things just get crazier, Tony. It's just I lost a lot of friends to murder, and I seen a lot of fucking pain, and I couldn't handle that pain. I'm such a sensitive character. I'm so vulnerable. Like now, I'm so strong and confident, but this has took me 36 years to get to where I am. And even though I'm confident, I believe I've got the best podcast in the world. I believe I create the best documentary in the world. And people always say to me, oh, he's ego, he's arrogant. But I'm not going to drop my standards to make other people feel at ease, because for 33, 34 years prior, I was insecure, I was scared, I was fucking weak.
I don't think, I would disagree if anyone ever said to me that you're egotistical and arrogant. I would actually say, no, you're not. You believe in yourself. And there's a difference between arrogance and believing in oneself. And what you do when you get to that level of actually self-belief and you know what you're doing is really good, you're getting the feedback that's really good. Yeah, that can inflate your ego, but what it's about is about having a product and believing in your own brand, and you believe in your own brand. And I think that is commendable. I think that That's great.
But it's a slippery slope as well, though, Tony, because sometimes I think, is this self-seeking? Is it ego? Because someone asked me just a few weeks ago why I was doing it all, and I said because I want to spread a positive message. I'm confident. I want to show people that it can change. And it says, no, really, why are you doing it? Ask yourself that question. And I went home and thought about it. And the reason why I'm doing all this is because I still don't feel good enough. I feel as if I can trick people into believing that I am somebody.
Well, I was just about to say that my theory on it is that you want to better yourself. And that's your nature, is to better yourself. And you found a platform that you're good at doing. And therefore, you know, like anything, one is too many and 1,000's never enough. You do, how many podcasts do you do a week?
2.
Which is insane in itself.
Yeah.
I do it like every couple of weeks, and that's enough for me. Because you know, I'm a character that takes on everybody else's drama. So I will leave there with all of your car chases and all of the whole gangster shit, and in my head, and I will, you know, fantasize it about it and take it to another level if I don't reel it in. And I just think with you, James, you know, you found a new release of dopamine by doing your podcast, and getting the feedback that you get is a really honest way, and it is an honest way of getting that dopamine release.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, the amount of people alone that have messaged me from the podcast that I did with you is, I still get at least 10, 20 messages a week. Hey, just watched you on James English. That's incredible. That's incredible. And you should be proud of that.
I am.
You know,
but you still doubt yourself, Tony, because no matter how, like I says at the start of this interview, it's I still doubt myself constantly. There's more pressure and pain now, and life's going great than there was when I didn't give a fuck. So I'm trying to adapt. I'm trying to understand that every time I level up, a new wave of hate, a new wave of jealousy, a new wave of people telling you you're not good enough, you're a fraud, and that doubt does creep into your mind. But every time,
James, I suffer with imposter syndrome. I could be flying to do a job in Miami for one of the biggest footballers on the planet, and I would be sitting at the front of the plane thinking they're all going to hate me when I get off this plane. They're going to think I'm shit. They're going to find out that I'm the worst DJ in the world. That's how my mind operates. Or I'll be at home the day before thinking, fuck, I've got to go to the airport. What an inconvenience. Not, oh my God, I'm going to Miami, blah, 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 blah. I will doubt and I will destroy it internally because I suffer from low self-worth. And that low self-worth will always kick in because that's what we do as addicts. We carry that shame through and we carry that, and we'll never be, there's always a part of us that will never be enough. Do you get what I'm saying to you?
Yeah.
How much we achieve, and I just, you know, it's about finding that level of thinking, okay, you know what? I'm enough today. I'm enough today.
Where do we find that balance though, Tony? You're very successful. You know all the biggest celebrities in the world. I'm trying to find the balance. I feel as if I'm working harder than everybody else, but I'm not enjoying the journey. I feel as if, because if I stop, then everything else goes that I've worked for. So
well, if you
there's a fine line between,
James, that's the problem. If when we keep going and we keep going and keep going, and suddenly we stop, we crash. And we, you know, before the pandemic, I was working like every day of the week, and blah blah blah, a million and one things going. I would take a weekend off, right? On the Saturday and the Sunday, I would think, I'm not doing anything this weekend. Book it out in the diary. Come Saturday night, everyone hates me. My career's over. I might as well kill myself. That's where it goes, because I didn't know the coping mechanisms of knowing how to stop and how to slow down. It's okay to take time out. It's okay to stop. No one's going to forget who you are. No, your career's not going anywhere because your career, you created this platform for yourself. So, you know what? It's time. Sometimes it's time to step out and actually reap the rewards of it, in the sense of how far you've come, who you are, and what level you are within yourself internally. I think what happens with you, James, is that when we give so much away, we don't leave any for ourselves. And I do this an awful lot in recovery. I will spend all day helping people on the phone. I'm not a saint, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to make out I am. But I will take calls and I will speak to sponsors, or I will take meetings. And then in the evening, I have nothing left for Tony. And all I've done is take on everyone else's problems, and I've not shared my own. So what happens is it all becomes up here, and it all becomes so big that I will go to bed and wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning and start to catastrophize it will go to the next level. And by 6 a.m., I'll be thinking, why don't you just kill yourself? That's how simple it is. And it's because, you know, that's how our addict brains work. They operate. And I just think with you, James, you're so successful for so many reasons because you put the hard work in. But do you actually reap that hard work?
No, because I feel as if this has become an addiction, Tony. I feel as if I've become obsessed with this. I want to be the biggest in the UK. I want to be biggest in the world. I'm working harder than everybody else. Just over the last 2 weeks, we've travelled over 3,000 miles driving.
I watch you on a daily basis. I'm like,
yeah.
He goes again. And
yeah.
that's why I'm really glad you brought it up and I didn't, about it becoming your new addiction. Because you know, I watch your podcast and I watch the way you are, and I see when I met you, you go into this place of like such a natural high when you're doing your job, and it's like you've arrived. It's like you just, you know, that first time someone gives you a new drug, and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to do this forever. And that's what it's like with you. And I just think, where does he come down? Where is that point?
Yeah. But then, Tony, when I'm doing my interviews for an hour, 2 hours, that's when I feel free. I don't feel any fucking pain. I feel as if I switch off and I become that person who I'm interviewing. I try and connect on a mental level, emotional. Everything's energies and frequencies. I understand that, so I can adapt to that person, no matter the backstory. So I feel free. All my pain and fucking worry of the past and the present disappears.
How do you deal with that? How do you deal with that when you're at home? Are you just on to the next one straight away?
I'm just constantly thinking of the next guest, the next fix, the next how can I keep raising the bar? Success leaves clues. I'm constantly looking for progression. I go hill walking. I do a lot of hill walking, a lot of cold water exposure. I was in Amsterdam last month in December interviewing a man called Wim Hof. He's all about the cold water exposure and how the cold benefits. So I've got to go hill walks. I've got to do the cold water stuff because it kind of levels me again and grounds me, because everything else is an illusion. A podcast is a fucking illusion. Numbers, views, guests, it don't really mean anything. But in here, it's my world just now. But I just need to be careful that it doesn't become an obsession where I slip back into the old method of thinking when I was an addict on gambling and drugs and women, because this is what it feels like. It feels like a job now. It feels like it used to be enjoyment, but now every time I level up, there does become new hate. But I thrive on that. I get 99% love and respect, but I thrive on the hate. I think I'll show these fucking bastards instead of where your focus goes, your energy flows. I know this, but
but you get back what you put out. You put out what you put out. You get back, and you're right now. Your podcasts are really positive. If you start buying into that hate of other people, it's going to go in the wrong direction for you. I want to know how. When you've done 3 or 4 podcasts in a week, which you do, and you're driving back to Scotland, or you're on that train as you do, I've seen you've been on that train more times than most fucking. You know, it's like you're like the big fat conductor in Thomas the Tank Engine. How do you come down from that? What do you do? I know you do exercise and you do your boxing and then you do. Yeah. Is that the release that you get for it, for James?
Yeah, it's just to come back to a normal state again. But I'm a Reiki master. I did a Reiki course 3 years ago, so I'm all about energy. I'll give myself a bit of Reiki because sometimes I can do 3 interviews in a day. When I come back, Tony, I'm fucked for 2 or 3 days, mate, because I'm hearing about people who's done killings and murder and bank robberies, and it's deep shit. So you're interacting with that energy. I can connect and feel that pain. So you're giving them everything. You're giving them your attention.
What do you hold back for yourself?
Yeah, I don't. This is what I'm trying to find the balance, because all this is new to me. I've came from absolutely nowhere, and I've created this and starting to get a bit of recognition, and people are starting to like it, and it feels good. I kind of don't want that bubble to pop because I'm scared, Tony, that
it won't pop unless you pop, because you're going to pop.
No.
You're going to burn yourself out. You're going to get to this point where you completely burn yourself out. And you end up having some form of fucking breakdown because you've taken on everybody else's shit. And why don't you just sometimes in life, we learn the worst, the biggest lessons that we learn are from the worst banana skins, from the worst slips when we fall. And, that's when we kind of like, oh, fuck, that really hurt. That's when we learn the best. And it's about learning how to walk and not slip on those banana skins and learn those, because you know what? like I'm the worst kind of addict because it always has to get so painful before I change. Oh, there'll be a disaster and everything will be pear-shaped and I'll blame someone else for it instead of myself. But today I can take responsibility for my own health and my own mental health. And what you're not doing is you're taking on everybody else's shit on a daily basis, like I said about 20 minutes ago, and you're not holding anything back for yourself. You need to take at least a week out and just say, you know what, this is James time. This is, because you have to. That's how you get balance.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? No one's going to forget who you are because you've had a week off.
But I do. I think that, Tony. I think that, man. So what is that? Is that my ego? Is that upset?
No,
What the fuck is that?
That's addict behaviour. That's
I just think, oh no, nobody will love me anymore. It's fucking crazy.
I'm ring a best friend, right? And they don't answer the phone. An hour later, they're all sitting there hating me, slagging me off. They hate that I don't belong anymore. That's where my mind, and all they is they probably just out with their dog or they're busy at work. But my mind will take it to that place of like, they all hate you. They all answer the phone because they don't like you.
Mm-hmm.
Insane, absolutely insane. But the more I voice that to my friends when I say, oh, guess what I did this afternoon when you didn't answer the phone? Oh, did you start thinking like that again? I'm like, yeah, and we laugh about it. And that's the way I deal with it. It's about voicing it. And because, it's that same old thing of if you don't open your mouth, you don't get fed. And that's why I wanted to talk to you, because I just thought, I mean, where does he get his energy? How much money does he spend on trains a week anyway as well?
Yeah. So we obviously get our sponsors, we've got our YouTube, but that's why I've got to do 2 and 3 interviews per day, because if we're in London, it's too expensive to stay there for the week. So I'll try and focus on getting 3 done in a day, and then maybe taking the next trip to Manchester, getting 2 or 3 done. So I'm always ahead of the game. But again, it's to find the balance. Understand, I do a lot of reading now and meditation.
There you go.
Walks.
But that's a really good way of getting balance. But you know what? You have to. It's very well reading. It's very well doing meditation. If you're not allowed, but if you don't give it time to work, there's no point.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I just downloaded a really big box set, but I'm not going to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I'm a working process. It was when I turned 30, everything changed. Like, my life was fucked. I was back in my mum's. I had a big 30th party right enough because I wanted attention. So I invited everyone, over 400 people. I was bang on the Charlie for 3-4 days, Tony. And remember, I've got kids, so you become selfish. And then the girl that was saying we were supposed to get a flat, I'd fucked the money in the bookies. I was seeing her for nearly a year. She never had a clue that I was gambling. So I'd fucked the deposit. I'd came clean. She never went to my 30th. I ended up out for 4 days. But she gave me a book about a year when we just met the first couple of weeks. I was obviously telling her about my insecurities, the mindset. And she gave me a book called The Power of Now. Yeah, and then after my sister's after my party, after 3-4 days on it, I started crying. I thought, I need to fucking get my shit together. Because see, when I used to sit at parties, Tony, I always used to look around and go, look at the fucking state of these people. Yeah. Even though I was in the same place, I always believed I had more. I always believed I could change the world. I always believed I had greatness in me. Nobody else seen it, especially in my later of the 20s. And then I read that book and everything kind of made sense about the present moment, understanding life. And for the last 6 years, it's been a journey. I've had many relapses, over 3 years off the gambling, over 2 years off the booze and the gear. But I done that when I turned 30, Tony, for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And then I had a relapse. I went to my auntie's funeral and I seen everybody drinking. I wasn't getting forced. It's down to you if you want to drink or not. I had a drink and I went fucking off the rails again for 1 year. Every day gambling, every day lying, just bullshit.
It kind of isn't down to you. A lot of people say, oh, he's an alcoholic, he can stop. He can't stop, he's powerless. We become powerless, like you are over gambling, you're powerless, like you are over your podcast, you suddenly become powerless over it because it's not enough. You've got to do more and more and more. And it's like that with alcohol. But what happens is when we don't drink for like 3 years, suddenly we're in a social situation and we've taken our foot off the gas and we put ourselves into a place of, we're not connected as such to anything. What happens is fuck it. Why don't I just have a drink? Yeah, everyone else is, and suddenly before you know it, you're balls deep again. Do you get what I'm saying to you? And you become powerless again. That's taken away from you. and it's such a painful place to be. So I don't. When you said, "Oh, you know, it's up to me to have a drink," it probably wasn't. It was probably premeditated a long time ago before.
Yeah, the steps. But like I say, even though I'm gambling free now, I still place bets in my head, Tony. I'll still watch the boxing or the football, and I'll the first goal scorer or who won. And I'm sitting there and I've got the bets on in my head. So I still get scared that, like, I'll have dreams, Tony. I'm sitting at a party out my fucking nut and I'll wake up excited.
I'm 14 years and I still have those dreams. And thank God they're only dreams and they're not reality, because I wake up from those dreams and I think, thank God I'm not doing that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't wake up thinking, I've got to get an ounce of coke. I wake up and I think, thank God that's not my life. We always had those dreams because the subconscious, this part of our brain here, holds on to those memories. You know, we go to a place whenever I'm tired or whatever. It's always we go back to our old behaviours. Our head goes, and you know what I call them virtual key rings. For me, I will pick up 200 virtual key rings a year. They're not relapses, they're thought relapses. So, like, you know, for me, I struggle with sex addiction, I struggle with food, I struggle with fucking everything. I struggle with life. So I can go around and I could go through my daily business, and then I will get a thought into my head. And I won't act on it because my program now kicks in, so I don't act on those thoughts. But I can wake up in the morning and think today's a really good day to destroy my life by cheating on my partner or messaging someone or any of that stuff. You know, because I don't need drink or drugs to fuck up my life. I do a really good job of it myself. And, you know, today it's about just realizing that stuff, and they're only thoughts.
Yeah.
Early days, in the early recovery, I would shake them out of my head. I'd be in a situation and I would shake my head really hard, like a complete and utter nutcase, probably like causing brain damage. Yeah. There's a lot for the way I am today. But, you know, I would really shake my head just to shake those thought processes out of my mind.
See, everything that I'm doing, Tony, like, I've just started all this just over 2 years ago, and I would have done anything to be where I am today. But people always tell me how well I'm doing. I don't feel fuck all. I don't feel any different. What is that feeling? Do you felt that when you were becoming successful?
100%. I always, because it's from low self-worth, and it's just, you know what? It's that point in time, right? If you tell me you hate me, I'll take you on holiday. If you tell me you love me, I'm fucking off. I'm a mile away, because it's really hard to take on praise. And it's only been the last few years that I've actually learned to say, if someone tells me they love what I do, I appreciate what they say. Whereas before I'd be like, whoa, what do you want? What are you after? Because I couldn't take on praise. I couldn't take on somebody thinking that what I do is good. Do you know what I'm saying to you? I used to be like, oh, thanks. I think, oh, you know, they're after something, or, you know, because I didn't believe in myself. And it only comes from time and practice. You know, in 12-step fellowship, there's a saying fake it to make it. And you know what? It's just about learning to accept that you are good enough, and what you do is fucking brilliant. Do you get what I'm saying to you? Because you know, there's a really good way of doing it, and that's like starting every day with self-affirmation. I don't know if you tried self-affirmation. Just by standing in the mirror and affirming yourself.
Yeah, I do that every morning, my affirmations every morning. I do my affirmations, I go over my goals. No, it's clearly working, Tony. Everything I'm doing, I want to show people, your prime example that change is doable, including myself. Like, I've created everything from no backing, no funding, no nothing, just straight hard work. And a lot of people, you know yourself, doing these interviews and stuff, it is tiring that everybody and their dad starts podcasts, but nobody lasts, Tony. They do it and then they'll never be seen again because they realise how hard it actually is. But I want to show people that you can make changes in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s. You just have to believe as well. But people need to understand that everything might look great from the outside, but I'm still fucking screaming out for help. I still feel like running people over. Do you know what I mean? I still think I'll kill that bastard.
Oh yeah, I think about burning people's houses down. You know, for me, it's like, you know, I can literally just be like, someone can say the wrong thing and I'm like, oh, I wouldn't mind burning down your house. Do you know what I mean? But that's where it goes to such extremities of us. You know, it really does. And you know what, James? I just think that you should take on some of your achievements now and just think that, you know what, I'm in a really good place. I'm in a really good place. Stop chasing. I used to call it hoovering out the hoover. because we'd be like, I've got to clean this up, but it's the same old dirt going around until you empty that Hoover bag and take a breather, nothing changes. And you know what? You've kind of gone, and you're going to a new level with your podcast, which is fucking amazing. Just step back and breathe for a while and just think, you know what?
Enjoy it.
Let these bitches wait for another one. Because you know, we were doing this recovery every week, and it wasn't getting enough traction in the sense that, you know, suddenly a week later we'd be like bombarding someone else with another story. And now we'd like, I've said, okay, let's just do it fortnightly and then do it in seasons. Let's take 3 months off and let those ones build. Do you get what I mean? And I didn't know the success of this podcast. I don't ever look. I'm too obsessed by it, how many people are liking what I'm posting on Instagram and how many followers I've got. I'm obsessed by it. Thank God I can't see what's going on with this. Because I've been like up all night.
Tony, it's flying, by the way. It's flying, man.
I was just like,
yeah. Yeah, that's how you need to get 2 out a week, Tony. Come back to me, mate. We'll do 2 a week. Fuck it. It's hard, but that again, it is the obsession, it is the addiction. I know what you're saying because I've still got kids to see. I've still got. It's turning into a business as well. It's becoming more of a job instead of a hobby. But I always visualised and believed that how far it would go. And this is only the start of where I'm going to take it. Like, I'm going to take this shit global. I'm going to go around the world just talking to people, getting their stories, getting a better understanding. Like, because I've lost family members and friends to murder, I don't glorify criminals. I give people an understanding of why they're a criminal. Now, every criminal I've interviewed, every bad man, so-called bad man, every single one was bullied or abused when they're younger. The anger, the frustration, the holding a gun or a knife is their comfort blanket, their defence mechanism, because they don't want to feel pain anymore.
Exactly, and you know, I just learned recently, in the last few days actually, from my counselling. So I'm doing like trauma therapy, childhood trauma therapy and sex therapy. And, you know, I learned that it's okay for me to be angry because I've always waited for it to turn into rage before it does. And, you know, with that gangster thing, you know, back in the day, in the 80s and 90s, I probably slept with every gangster there was in London. Do you get what I mean? I slept with half the ICF. Ecstasy came into play, and suddenly I was like seeing, you know, they're bringing just like drama, you know, because there was so much trauma attached to those guys that as soon as you introduced something which changed their mind concept, which was ecstasy at the time, they opened up this whole new world to them of who they really were, and they suddenly, you know. I ended up in so many relationships with nutcases, but they weren't really nutcases. It was all bravado because they were so scared of who they really were. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, and that's the difference with life today. Everybody's scared. Social media has brainwashed us as an illusion as well. We're trying to compare ourselves with other people. But listen, I've interviewed billionaires, Tony. I've interviewed multi-millionaires, and they have once tried to commit suicide. They have struggled and battled. The money, the fame, it is an illusion. The attention, it's an illusion. It's to go deep within, which is so cheesy, but that's what I'm trying to go is within and understand that it's okay to be fucked up. It's okay to be scared and vulnerable and weak, but I still have serious trust issues. Like, I don't trust anyone, and that's partly because I don't fucking trust myself still. But these are all working processes. I've cut out the drink, the drugs, the gambling. I wouldn't say lying because I still like to tell a tale or two, as we all do. I think people who say they don't lie are the biggest liars.
I mean, listen, I'm the worst one for lying. When people go, "How are you, Sam?" I'm like, "I'm really good." A million dramas going on, but you know, I will still use those little white lies. Or if I have to be somewhere, I revert back to what, because in my using days, I would tell people my dad died. Like I think I've used that lie about 6 or 7 times to different people over the course of years, so that they felt sorry for me and be like, "Oh, poor Tony, his dad's just died. That's why he's the way he is." And then, you know, so it's really easy for me to revert back to those old ways. So like when I have to be somewhere, I'm like, "Oh, my mum was really ill and I had to go," and I'm like, "What are you doing? Just say you can't do it." Do you know what I mean? But no, it's much more easier for me to slip back into those ways of saying, because you know what, it's human nature. Yeah, and we use what's comfortable. We use those old crutches, and it's really easy to go back to that stuff if we're we don't keep ourselves on our toes.
What's your daily routine like now, Tony?
For me, I get up in the morning, I pray, I hand things over, I do my social media, which is like me, you know, and then I watch morning TV, which is like, for me, it's like a form of meditation, believe it or not. And people always laugh at this, but when I watch TV, I kind of zone out and I go down. And I'm not in my own head. I'm not on my phone. I'm actually just zoned out. And then 9 times out of 10, I'm asleep straight away if I'm trying. My ADHD doesn't allow me to watch movies and things like that. I fall asleep straight away because I'm so like all day long. And then suddenly, as soon as I sit down, I crash. But for me now, it's about work. But in the middle of the day, every day, I have to go to my meetings. I have to do an NA meeting because what it does is it grounds me and it levels me. And it gives me the security that I know that I'm all right. I'm a good person. Do you know what I mean? If I don't connect to other addicts and I don't connect to that power of the fellowship as such, I go insane. So it's really important for me to connect and talk to other addicts like you.
I realise that we're all fucking loonies.
Yeah, we are. But you know what? There is actually such a method to our madness. There really is. And you know, I posted something yesterday that I've learned some of the best lessons from the most fucked up people. Because we do. You know, we get that identification and think, fuck, I see myself in that person. And I see myself in you, in such a lot of things that you do in the way you are. And that's why I love you so much, James, because I watch you and I'm like, when's he going to stop? When's he going to slow down? When's he going to think, you know what? That's all right for now. Do you know what I mean?
There will come a time though, Tony, when I will realise that I'll need a break. Like, it's just because I want to go levels. I'm supporting my family now. I'm going to take this into a business where I can support my family, I can support my mum, I can support my sister.
I don't doubt for one minute you won't be the most successful person ever, but just learn to breathe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know
Enjoy the process. Tony, it's not that. I know this, but I don't take... Like, I can speak to people in the street and other people message me. I give them the great advice, but I do not listen to my own shit.
That's
where I feel like a fraud.
That's why I've got hypocrite written on one hand and on the other.
Yeah, I feel like...
And I'm doing it.
Yeah, I can change life sets. I can make people see the world differently. But I preach all this shit and then I think... But I'll talk and I'll think, fuck me, James, you're turning into a genius. And then other times I'll lie in my bed, Tony, and I'll think, you're just a fucking psychopath. You've just found another avenue to manipulate people. And it's constant fucking battle.
I do the same. I had this conversation the other day with Davina McCall. I was like, who the fuck in their right mind would have thought 15 years ago that people were calling me up to help save their kids' lives? And she was like, I did. And I said, oh, don't lie. She went, no, I did. She's like, you know, even in your using and the person, you always had that ability and that thing about you, that caring nature. And I was like, I just find it insane that, you know, that my life is turned around in such a way now that I don't make my whole life about me. I make it more about other people, and I still hold 10% or 20% or 30% back some days for myself.
Yeah.
It's really important to do that, James. I love you. I think you're fucking brilliant.
Yeah, I love you too, Tony. You're doing amazing, man. Proud of you.
It's amazing. You need to get a bit more younger talent on there, though.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I will.
I know you're holding out for McGregor, aren't you?
Yeah, he'll be on the next 18 months.
Oh, of course.
He will be on. He will be on. There's going to be a stage where I can get anyone, Tony. I'm so confident in my ability. I'm so confident in the way I can execute an interview. I'm just going to keep learning and growing. But like you says, it's to find balance. And it is difficult because I'm so obsessed to becoming everything I've ever done in life, whether it was playing football. I've always been the captain of the football team. No matter what, if I was being dodgy, I was always one of the good earners. Everything I do, I become top boy at. And I need to be careful that I'm not becoming ego-driven and it doesn't become an obsession because I love interviewing people and it is my getaway because I know it's helping others and changing lives and it's still entertainment, but it's to find balance. I'm very good at creating finishing lines, but not enjoying the journey and then creating another one once I hit it. And I remember hitting 100,000 subscribers on YouTube and I remember in bed, I kept refreshing. I set out to do this goal. But even when I hit it, Tony, I thought, this is shite, man. I didn't feel fuck all, even though it took me 2 years.
I just got 200k on Instagram and I was like, I want 250.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed by how many numbers I say it all day long. David's like, you just put your phone down. It drives me insane because I literally, it's anything that can change the way we feel. We latch onto.
Yeah.
And I think that you just need to latch onto the love that people have got for you. That's what you need to do, mate.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Let people love you for who you are because you're fucking brilliant.
Thank you, Tony.
Really,
I appreciate the support.
And just keep doing what you do, man.
Yeah, thank you. I love you, man, and a massive supporter of yourself. And obviously, since I've met you, you've been amazing and always showing support and love. And I'm truly grateful for that. We'll be friends till we end up back on it or whatever.
And my teeth are definitely whiter than yours.
No fucking chance. But listen, Tony, I love you, man, dearly. And God bless you, brother. Keep doing what you're doing. Take care.
All the best,
See you
man.
soon, brother. Bye.